And Siddhant, taking that point forward, a very key critical one being shared about in terms of whether there was any intel sharing done with the United States. The US president in his post has said, and let me quote him verbatim, as I said last night, now they can have immunity with regards to IRGC. We are hearing that many of their IRGC military and other security and police forces no longer want to fight and are looking for immunity from us. As I said last night, now they can have immunity. Later, they only get death. Is that an indication in itself that, yes, perhaps the overall power structure has already been undergoing a change while Khamenei was still alive?
Well, that's right. So, Akanksha, this has been going on from quite some time. In fact, US and Israeli forces intelligence was preparing to take down Khamenei from a very long time, and they were seriously pursuing this task. So, if you look back how it all started, now Iran's main tool of domination in the region was its proxies, Akanksha, Hamas, Hezbollah and Houthi rebels. Now, it all started by eliminating senior Hamas leadership. Yahya Sinwar and others were killed by Israeli forces. Then in Lebanon, the pager attack and their senior leadership was eliminated. Perhaps that was the biggest setback for Iranian proxy network in the region, and these proxies were largely controlled and used to work in connivance with IRGC, Akanksha. So after the senior Hamas leadership was eliminated, then senior Hezbollah leadership was eliminated by Israel. Perhaps that in a way broke the spine of Iranian security architecture, security network in the region, and after which Israel decided to go after Iran directly. And if you remember, in 2024, for the first time, Israel and Iranian forces exchanged fire, which lasted for a few hours because of the air defense systems put in place by US and allies. They could manage to sustain Iranian missile attack. Then last year in June, as we were discussing before, the nuclear sites were hit. Perhaps at that time it was said that it is being done to bring Iran to the tables for the negotiations. Then the protest broke out in December. Economy is not doing good. University students, traders, etc., hit the streets, and there were repeated calls from US President, Israeli leadership for a regime change. And as you said, now coming to your question, so all these developments made IRGC and those who were loyal to the regime perhaps believe that regime could collapse. And the first time this was evident when, Akanksha, last year in June, the nuclear sites were hit, and there were multiple explosions in various parts of Iran were reported. At that time, there were multiple reports which suggested that Israeli...
I'm so sorry to interrupt you there, Siddhant. As we speak about these nuclear sites, we're getting in some breaking inputs right now. Witness reports are suggesting that Iran has heard loud explosions over Isfahan. So this is exactly what we here at CNN News 18 were discussing, that the focus now shifts over to completely decimate the remaining nuclear sites. Sanjay Suri, you could weigh in on that aspect. Loud explosions heard over Isfahan. There's Fordo, there's Natanz, there are a host of other nuclear sites. And now, clearly, the US and Israel will be looking towards ensuring, now that the joint strikes are happening, that they completely eliminate these nuclear sites.
We heard the claim, Akanksha, from Trump earlier that the nuclear capacities of Iran had been obliterated, and that was in the last strikes. Clearly, they were not. and reports have surfaced that a lot of the enriched uranium had been stored particularly at the Isfahan site, and that certainly will be the target, and that is an area that Iran has taken a lot of steps to protect further in recent days and recent weeks. We've seen several indications of that through satellite imagery. A question then is a very critical question, how deep the attack goes now physically into the Isfahan facility. If it were to hit the uranium itself stored there, what that could result in, and that is a question that has worried IAEA, and if it has worried them, it should worry us all. They have said that so far they have no reports of any radiation arising from there, and that there has been no consequence from any damage done so far. But if there were to be damage, and if you are looking at missile attacks, they are not going to be discriminating about where to hit, what to hit, how to contain what. This is going to be a blast, and if that blast is effective, will it hit the uranium itself? What could that lead to? This is not the primary question for Israel and the US. Their mission is to finish the nuclear capability. How it is done and how it can lead to difficulties certainly is a question for Iran.
Absolutely, because the IAEA has also reported that there is a lack of access at least to two key critical nuclear facilities, one in Fordo, the other in Natanz. Now remember, there are 6 of them, and right now what we can tell our viewers is that Isfahan has reported loud explosions. So it does seem like in this entire week that the US president has indicated there will be pinpoint bombardment is the term that he's used. They will ensure the complete obliteration of these 6 nuclear sites. How the United States and Israel managed to do that without boots on the ground, that is going to be another key critical question.